Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gaurani Tai, Jaya Gaurani Tai, Gaurani Tai, Jaya Gaurani Tai. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Radha Govardhandari, Radha Govardhandari Shri Radhe. Jaya Vishapad Paramahamsa Parirajagata Hasoda Shishamadi's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajagata Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki. Nantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki, Namachara Shila Haridas Thakur Ki, Brahmsakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Dvaita Gadadha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mahapo Navri Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Ganga Mai Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Nittai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So continue on with Sri Caitanya Caritamrta with our weekend readings from the Adi Leela, chapter 17, Pastimes of the Lord in His Youth. And getting to the special portion of the Caitanya Caritamrita where Lord Caitanya is going to exhibit his Sankirtan pastimes and transform from being Nimai Pandit into a preaching devotee of love of Krishna. So we're up to text number 2 today, which we have on the board, and it's an appropriate one. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Which word? Jai Jai. All glories. Sri Caitanya. To Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai. All glories. Nityananda. To Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Jai Advaita Chandra. All glories to Advaita Acharya. Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Translation. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Advaita Acharya. And all glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Move on to text number 3. Kaishora Lilara Sutra Karila Ganana Yovana Lilara Sutra Kari Anukrama. Translation. I have already given a synopsis of the Kaishorya Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now let me enumerate his youthful pastimes in chronological order. Text number 4. Vidya Sundara Sadvesha Sambhoga Nritya Kirtana Prema Nama Pradanaischa Gora Divyati Yovina. Exhibiting his scholarship, beauty, and fine dress, Lord Chaitanya danced, chanted, and distributed the holy name of the Lord to awaken dormant love of Krishna. Thus, Lord Gaurasundara shone in his youthful pastimes. Text number 5. Yovana Praveshe Angera Anga Vibhushana Divya Vashtra Divya Vesha Malya Chandana. As he entered his youth, the Lord decorated himself with ornaments, dressed himself with fine cloth, garlanded himself with flowers, and smeared himself with sandalwood. Text number 6. Vidyara Odate Kahorina Kara Ganana Sakala Pandita Jinikare Ajapana. By dint of pride in his education, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not caring for anyone else, defeated all kinds of learned scholars while executing his studies. Text number 7. Vayu Vyadi Chala Koila Prema Parakasha Bhaktagana Lana Koila Vividha Vilasa. In his youth, the Lord, on the plea of disturbances of bodily ears, exhibited his ecstatic love of Krishna. Accompanied by his confidential devotees, he enjoyed various pastimes in this way. Purport. According to Ayurvedic treatment, the entire physiological system is conducted by three elements, namely Vayu, Pitta and Kapha, air, bile and mucus. Secretions within the body transform into other secretions like blood, urine and stool. But if there are disturbances in the metabolism, the secretions turn into Kapha, mucus, by the influence of the air within the body. According to the Ayurvedic system, when the secretion of bile and formation of mucus disturb the air circulating within the body, 59 varieties of disease may occur. One of such diseases is craziness. On the plea of disturbance of the bodily air and metabolism, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu acted as if crazy. Thus, in his school, he began to explain the grammar of verbs through Krishna consciousness, explaining everything in grammar in relationship to Krishna, the Lord, induced his students to refrain from worldly education, for it is better to become Krishna conscious and in this way attain the highest perfectional platform of education. On these grounds, Sri Jiva Goswami later compiled the grammar entitled Hari Namamrita Vyakarana. People in general consider such explanations crazy. Therefore, the Lord's purpose in his attitude of craziness was to explain nothing within our experience but Krishna consciousness. For everything may be dovetailed with Krishna consciousness. These pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have been very vividly described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adikand, chapter 12. Omigana Chamarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chaksho Midhamyana Tasma Shri Guruve Namaha. So in his youth, the Lord, on the plea of disturbances of the bodily airs, exhibited his ecstatic love of Krishna, accompanied by his confidential devotees. He enjoyed various pastimes in this way. Yeah. So as we're now up to this point in the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Nimai Pandit has been displaying his scholarly ability and was actually a great teacher. He has become a very well-reputed teacher within Navadvip, and his glories of being a very successful teacher were spreading throughout the whole of Bengal. And prior to this section here, he had actually travelled to East Bengal to Bangladesh. And in Bangladesh, he had stayed by the Padmavati River. And while he was there, he took on more students. And he was so expert in teaching that a lot of the students would become great scholars within 6 months to 12 months, to become very, very scholarly in different shastras. So he was very, very well sought after teacher, very well reputed, and wherever he was going, the parents of students would want their children to be educated by him. So even though they weren't always able to send their children to Navadvip, Lord Chaitanya, when he went out to Bangladesh as Nimai Pandit, the students who weren't able to come to him in Navadvip were able to see him in Bangladesh and become his students there and become qualified very, very quickly because of the expertise of his teaching. So at this point, he hadn't manifested his Sankirtan Leela, his Sankirtan pastimes as of yet, but this all begins to change now. So these pastimes of Nimai Pandit are coming to an end, and now he's begun to start manifesting his Sankirtan Leela. And at the time, because he was very scholarly, even the devotees stayed away from him. They didn't want to be near him because whenever he saw the devotees, he'd get into some seemingly mundane argument with them. Of course, that's all part of his ras, part of his Leela. But a lot of the Vaishnavas were very, very disturbed because they could see he was very educated and a great teacher, but he hadn't become a Vaishnava. So they were lamenting, when will this Nimai Pandit become a Vaishnava? When will he understand that Krishna is the goal of life? So Lord Chaitanya, Nimai Pandit, his father had passed away. So he went on a pilgrimage to Goa to do his last rites for his father there, Jagannath Mishra. So while he was in Goa, he met up with Jagannath Mishra, and this will be coming up very shortly in the next... he went to Goa to do the lights for Jagannath Mishra, but that's where he met Ishvara Puri. So the pastime of him meeting Ishvara Puri will be coming up in the next few verses, so I won't elaborate on that so much now, but he is initiated by Ishvara Puri, and this is when he begins manifesting his prem, his Krishna prem begins to manifest. So upon returning from Goa to Navadvip, he'd completely transformed. He'd suddenly become a Vaishnava, and there's nice explanations in the Caitanya Bhagavat how he was interacting then with the devotees, and he was taking them to a side and secretly disclosing to them that what had happened in Goa, that he'd become a great Vaishnava, and he was shedding tears, and these tears were causing the ground to flood because he was absorbed so much in Krishna prem. So he was displaying these Mahabhav symptoms which only great devotees can show. Like sometimes Srila Prabhupada would also manifest these symptoms of pure love for Krishna. I think Dave Mrida Maharaj was saying that when he was in a Bhagavatam class with Srila Prabhupada one morning, Prabhupada was giving his discussion on the Bhagavatam, and like a squirt of water flew out of his eye like a syringe. So this is one of the symptoms of Mahabhav. And Lord Chaitanya showed very, very never seen before symptoms of Mahabhav. Like his arms, the descriptions that his arms would become elongated, and sometimes they would withdraw into his body, his limbs would withdraw into his body like a tortoise. So these symptoms of love of Godhead had never been seen before, and we'll be reading about these things coming up in the Chaitanya Caritamrta. So all this began after he met his guru and was initiated by Ishvara Puri. So also Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, gives the example that we have to accept the guru. Just like Rupa Goswami explains the nectar of devotion, that's one of the beginning stages of bhakti, is that one has to associate with devotees, and one has to find a spiritual master, a guru, and take initiation from them. And then once one is initiated, then one can begin the process of sadhana bhakti under the guidance of the spiritual master. So Lord Chaitanya, even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he also set that example as well. He also had his initiating guru as well, Ishvara Puri. So upon returning to Navadvip, this is when Lord Chaitanya changes and begins manifesting this mood of becoming a great devotee. And at the time, as we've talked about before, in Navadvip, it was a great center of learning at the time, and a lot of students would go there, and unfortunately they were using the Vedas, but they weren't understanding bhakti. So the devotees at the time were lamenting that so many people were coming and they were learning and being educated, but they didn't understand what Krishna bhakti actually was, which is the purpose of all the Vedas, to understand Krishna and to reawaken one's love for Krishna. That's the goal of all the Vedas. So it's explained that when, at the time, India, and this is around, at this stage here, Lord Chaitanya is around 16 years old, so it must have been around the year 1502. So at that time, India was suffering from rampant hedonism, spiritual stagnation, strict caste stratification, the prominence of logic over mystic experience, and domination by Islamic rulers. Socially, morally, spiritually, politically, and intellectually, there was a need for change. So this is the background of Lord Chaitanya appearing. So the devotees are very relieved that finally Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is manifesting his real pastime of starting and inaugurating the Sankirtan movement, the Yuga Dham. As we know, for each Yuga cycle there is a process for self-realization. So for this age of Kali, it's explained that all of the benefit you get from previous Yugas, Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, all the benefits you got from doing meditation and deity worship and all these things, all of those benefits can be had just by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in this age of Kali Yuga. And Lord Chaitanya himself says, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, 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 Gatya Anyataha. That in this age of Kali, there is no other process, there's no other way, no other way. So emphasize it, there is no other way other than chanting the holy name of Krishna. So this is the process that was inaugurated by the Yuga avatar, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Krishna himself. So the process for self-realization is made very, very easy. So we're blessed in that sense that despite all the chaos and craziness that's going around us in the world, that the process of self-realization, because of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has become very simple, simply through chanting the holy names of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So, in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that the pastimes are elaborated a bit more deeply in the Caitanya Bhagavat, in the Madhya Leela of the Caitanya Bhagavat, which is written by Vrindavan Das Thakur. So the Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta, I think it's explained at the start of this introduction to this chapter. It says that, as summarized by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Prabhava Bhashya, describes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes from his 16th year until the time he accepted the renounced order of his life. Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur has already vividly described these pastimes in the Caitanya Bhagavat. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes them only briefly. Vivid descriptions of some portions of his pastimes are seen in this chapter, however, because Vrindavan Das Thakur has not elaborately described them. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is following the etiquette that, because a lot of the pastimes had been detailed by Vrindavan Das Thakur, he doesn't elaborate so deeply on them in portions of the Caitanya Caritamrta. But fortunately, in the Caitanya Bhagavat, there's some very nice extensions on this particular pastime of when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu changes from being Nimai Pandit into becoming a great Vaishnava. So we can continue on reading some of the Caitanya Bhagavat, which is a great book if you have time to read it. Like, it really expands so much on a lot of these pastimes that we're hearing about. Because here, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the next verse just says, thereafter the Lord went to Gaya, there he met Srila Ishvarapuri. He doesn't say anything further than that, but in the Caitanya Bhagavat, it elaborates that whole pastime of how he met Ishvarapuri and the whole pastime of how he became initiated there. So today we can maybe magnify a little bit more on the descriptions given in the Caitanya Bhagavat about this transformation of Nimai Pandit into becoming a great Vaishnava devotee, much to the pleasure of all the Vaishnavas who were in Navadvip at the time. So I'll just pull up a section of the Caitanya Bhagavat. Text number 147 I'm looking for. Just bear with me here. Where's it gone? Magic Thought I'd marked out the place I was going to start from. Obviously I didn't. We'll start from here. The students were captivated as they heard the Lord's explanations with undivided attention, and the Lord also became overwhelmed while he explained the truth. There's a picture on here as well. So this is the picture here of when he meets Ishvara Puri in Goa, and he transforms into Nimai Pandit, into a great lover of Krishna. So this is where Lord Caitanya, Nimai Pandit, is finally meeting with his students again after returning from Goa. The students were captivated as they heard the Lord's explanations with undivided attention, and the Lord also became overwhelmed while he explained the truth. Every word inherently establishes Krishna as the supreme truth. So there is no wonder that the Lord should explain in this way. Srila Bhaktisandra Saraswati comments here, any word manifested from the pure spiritual sky and received by the eternal pure sense of hearing smeared with the ointment of love is certainly non-different from the eternal primeval absolute truth Krishna. Therefore it is not very wonderful or astonishing that the Supreme Lord Sri Vishwambhara, who is devoid of the four defects of mistakes, illusion, cheating and imperfection that are found in living entities, will explain the meaning of every word through the eternal pure complete eternally liberated spiritual and most important Vidvad Ruti. After a while, Vishwambhara regained his external consciousness, feeling somewhat embarrassed. He began to inquire, how was my explanation of the sutras today? The students replied, we have not understood anything. You explained every word simply in relationship with Krishna, so who is the proper candidate for understanding your explanations? Vishwambhara smiled and said, listen, brothers, pack up your books for today and let us go take bath in the Ganges. Being instructed by the Lord, the students packed up their books and went with him to take bath in the Ganga. As Lord Vishwambhara sported in the Ganga, it appeared that the full moon was rising from the middle of the ocean. Vishwambhara sporting in the waters of the Ganga was seen by the most pious inhabitants of Nadia. The same Lord that personalities such as Brahma desired to see was now sporting in the water in the form of a Brahmana. All those persons who were taking bath in the bathing ghats of the Ganga gazed at the face of Lord Gaurachandra. They all remarked to one another, glorious are the father and mother of such a son. Being touched by the Lord, Goddess Ganga became joyful, and out of delight she manifested her agitation in waves. Jahnavi thus danced in the form of waves to worship the Lord, whose feet are served by innumerable universes. The daughter of Janu encircled the Lord on all sides and showered him with her waters while remaining unseen. The purport of these pastimes is known only to the Vedas, but later some of these pastimes will be revealed by the Puranas. After completing their bath, Vishwambhara and his students returned to their own homes. The devotees' distress was vanquished and the atheists were uprooted as the Supreme Lord Vishwambhara manifested himself. Bhaktisandra Saraswati quotes, now the rising sunlight preaching of devotional service to Krishna by Vishwambhara, who is a distributor of love of Krishna throughout the entire world, eradicates the former mental agony of the devotees who are ridiculed and harassed by the non-devotees, and begins the pastime of oppressing the atheists who are opposed to devotional service. In the mood of a Vaishnava, Mahaprabhu Vishwambhara constantly saw Krishna present everywhere in the world. He heard the names of Krishna both day and night, and he constantly chanted the name of Krishna Chandra. There's a comment here by Srila Bhaktisandra Saraswati. Sri Gaurasundara exhibited the pastimes of a Mahabhagavat Vaishnava and began to see everything in relation to Krishna. Ordinary materialists who have forgotten Krishna become bewildered by mundane knowledge, and instead of seeing everything in relation to Krishna, they see the entire world as a place of enjoyment. Mahaprabhu, however, did not set such an example by identifying himself as the enjoyer. Rather, he saw this animate and inanimate world, which is visible to the conditioned souls who are adverse to and forgetful of Krishna, through the spiritual vision of a Mahabhagavat Vaishnava, inclined to the service of Krishna. He began to realize the pastimes of omnipotent Krishna in the heart of every living entity. Therefore, since he had no temporary material conceptions, like the forgetful materialistic conditioned souls, while realizing transcendental Vaikuntha Goloka everywhere, he was not obstructed by those opulences from seeing Krishna's pastimes of enjoyment and acceptance of service. The same Lord who was once absorbed in the taste of scholastic pastimes did not relish anything now other than Krishna. In the early morning, all the students would gather for studies. When the Lord of the three worlds began to teach, nothing other than Krishna came from his mouth. The students asked, what is the meaning of Siddha Varna Samamayana? The Lord replied, Narayan is situated in the letter of every alphabet. The students asked, how were the letters of the alphabet perfected? The Lord replied, by the merciful glance of Krishna. Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati quotes, in reply to the students' questions regarding the perfection of the letters of the alphabet, the Lord said that it was due to the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In other words, every letter is perfect because each one indicates the complete, perfectly pure and eternally liberated holy names, which are non-different from Krishna. The students asked, O Pandit, please explain properly. The Lord replied, every moment remember Krishna. You imagine you've been to a classroom and that's what your teachers are telling you. Just think of Krishna. I'm explaining to you about the worship of Krishna, which is the purport of the beginning, middle, and end of all Vedic literature. Hearing the Lord's explanation, the students began to laugh. Some remarked, it appears he is affected by an imbalance of life airs, which is what we were hearing in the purport today. And the Lord in his youth, on the plea of disturbance of bodily airs, exhibited his ecstatic love for Krishna, accompanied by his confidential devotees who enjoyed various pastimes in this way. The students asked, from where did you get this explanation? The Lord replied, this is the verdict of the scriptures. The students asked the Lord, how have you given such a strange explanation? The Lord answered, I have explained according to the conclusions and consistency of the scriptures. The Lord said, if you cannot understand now, then I will explain to you in detail this afternoon. I will also go sit in a solitary place and look at my books. Let us meet together in the afternoon. Hearing the Lord's words, all the students packed up their books and left. All the students reported to Gangadas Pandit everything that Nimai had explained to them. So Gangadas Pandit was the one whose school that Nimai Pandit was teaching in. So the students, he's like the headmaster of the school. So they've gone to see Gangadas Pandit. In every explanation that Nimai Pandit has given recently, he explains Krishna as the meaning of every word. Since he has returned from Gaya, he does not mention anything other than Krishna in his explanations. He always chants the name of Krishna and the hairs of his body stand on end. Sometimes he laughs or shouts loudly as he manifests different moods. Every day he takes the dhatu or verbal root of every word and explains Krishna through grammatical rules. Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati quotes here, through the process of grammatical derivation extended to its natural logical limit, Sri Gauranga brought together the verbal root or original form of every word with the sutras for generating each word's base and inflections in such a way as to explain them all as referring to Krishna. O Pandit, we are unable to understand his present characteristics, so please tell us what to do. Hearing the student's words, the Brahmana Gangadas Pandit, who is the crest jewel of teachers, burst into laughter. Gangadas said, go home now and return soon. This afternoon I will instruct him. Then he may teach you properly. You may also come with him in the afternoon. All the students happily returned to their homes, and in the afternoon they came with Vishrambar to the house of Gangadas Pandit. The Lord took the dust from the feet of his guru, and his guru blessed them, saying, may you attain knowledge. The Lord's teacher said, my dear Vishrambar, please hear my words. The studying of a Brahmana is not the result of being less fortunate. Your maternal grandfather is Nilambar Chakrabarti, and your father is Jagannath Mishra Purandara. There are no fools in either your maternal or paternal families, and you yourself are most qualified to explain the commentaries. If by giving up studies one becomes a devotee, then were your father and grandfather not devotees? Remembering all this, practice your lessons properly. Only through proper study can one become a Vaishnava Brahmana. How will an ignorant twice-born know what is proper and what is not? Knowing this, you should chant the name of Krishna and concentrate on your studies. Go now, but promise me that you will teach the scriptures properly without any different meanings. The Lord said, by the mercy of your feet, no one in Navadvip can stand before me in debate. Who in Navadvip can refute my explanations of the sutras? I will teach publicly in the middle of the city. Let me see who has the power to challenge me. Gangadas became pleased on hearing these words of the Lord, who then offered respects at his guru's feet and departed. I offer my humble obeisances at the feet of Gangadas Pandit, whose disciple is Lord of the Vedas and Master of the Goddess of Learning. What else is there to be attained by Gangadas Pandit, whose student is worshipped throughout the 14 worlds? As Lord Vishwambara walked along with the students, he appeared like the full moon surrounded by the stars. He whose lotus feet are kept in the heart of Lakshmi came and sat at the doorstep of a local resident's house. Wearing his cloth like a sannyasi, the Lord repeatedly established and refuted sutras. The Lord said, "In Kali Yuga, one who does not have any knowledge about the conjunction of words is awarded the title Bhattacharya, and one who has no knowledge of grammar is engaged in explaining logic. But none of them can defeat me. Who can challenge the way I refute and re-establish a sutra?" In this way, Vishwambara, the Lord of the universe, spoke. Who has the power to answer his challenge? The pride of those teachers who heard such words as they passed by on their way to take bath in the Ganges was smashed to pieces. Who in Navadvip had the power to establish a conclusion before Vishwambara? In this way, Vishwambara was absorbed in ecstasy as he continued to give his explanations well into the night. After the night passed, all the students came and sat down with their books to study. The Lord quickly returned from his bath in the Ganges, and after taking his seat began to explain the texts. The Lord's explanations did not deal with anything that was not related to Krishna. He explained every word in relation to Krishna's devotional service. Lord Caitanya Gaurasundara explained every word through the completely spiritual, perfectly pure, eternally liberated, and most important Vidvad Ruti as being related to devotional service. With his tongue that was attached to glorifying Krishna, he would not explain any word as having a meaning not related to Krishna. The students inquired, "What is the definition of dhatu, or verbal root?" The Lord replied, "That which is called Krishna's energy." O brothers, listen as I explain the aphorisms about dhatus. I would like to see who has the power to refute my explanation. All the kings we have seen had luxurious bodies, decorated with gold and beautified with fragrant sandalwood paste. Although their words determine a person's prosperity or death, hear what happens to them when their dhatu leaves their bodies. No one knows where the beauty of their bodily limbs goes, as some bodies are burned and some are buried. The energy of Krishna dwells in the body of every living entity as the dhatu, or active principle. All affection and devotion is meant for him alone. Because of illusion, teachers cannot understand this. Yet consider carefully whether I am right or wrong. There are persons to whom we now offer obeisances and respects, but when the active principle leaves their bodies, we must take bath after touching them. The son who was happily nourished on the lap of his father touches the fire of cremation to the mouth of his father after the active principle leaves him. That which is called dhatu is the power of Krishna, the beloved of all. Is there anyone who can deny this? O brothers, please render unflinching devotional service unto Krishna, whose energy is most pure and worshipable. Chant the name of Krishna, worship Krishna, and hear the name of Krishna. Day and night meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna. Anyone who offers a little water or durva grass at the lotus feet of the Lord is never subjected to the punishment of Yamaraj. Worship the lotus feet of Nandana, who delivered Agasura, Bakasura, and Putana. By remembering that the holy name was not really that of his son, Ajamil attained Vaikuntha. Therefore worship the lotus feet of Krishna. While serving his lotus feet, Shiva goes about naked. The service of those lotus feet is desired by Lakshmi. Take straw between your teeth and worship Krishna, whose lotus feet are glorified by Lord Ananta. As long as there is life and strength in your body, you should render devotional service to the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna is your mother, Krishna is your father, Krishna is your life and wealth. I fall at your feet and beg you to engage your minds in thinking of Krishna. In the mood of a servant, the Lord continually narrated his own glories until half of the day had passed. The charmed students heard the Lord's explanation with rapt attention. None of them dared to open their mouths. Know for certain that they are all eternal servants of Krishna. When Krishna himself is teaching them, can they be anyone else? After a while, Vishwambara manifested his external consciousness. He felt ashamed by looking at everyone's faces there. The Lord asked, "How is my explanation of the sutras on dhatus?" The students replied, "Your explanation was correct." There is no one arrogant enough to deny the meaning of every word that you have explained. Whatever you have explained is perfectly true, but the aim for which we study is different. The meanings of words that you present and have presented through Vidvad-ruti is the only actual eternal truth. The meaning of the words that we explain through Agna-ruti, though bearing the apparent meaning, is not the actual truth, but a useless interpretation. The Lord said, "Would you explain to me everything I said? Perhaps I've been overwhelmed by a disorder of the nerves." "What import of the sutras did I explain?" The students replied, "You have explained the names of Hari and all of them. You have explained that Krishna alone is the meaning of the sutras, the brief explanations and the commentaries, but who is qualified to understand your explanations? By the transformations you undergo while hearing about devotional service, one can never consider you an ordinary human being." The Lord said, "In what form do you regard me?" The students replied, as a perfection of all excellence. "We have never before seen the tears of love, the shivering and hair standing on end that you manifest. When you were teaching us yesterday in the town, a pious Brahmana recited one verse. On hearing that verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, you fell unconscious. We were amazed to see that there were no symptoms of life visible in your body. The way you cried after regaining consciousness, it appeared that the goddess Ganga had manifested there. When you eventually started shivering, even 100 persons were unable to hold you still. The hairs of your entire body stood at end, and your golden form was smeared with sweat, saliva, and dust. Everyone who saw you was struck with wonder and said, 'This person is Narayan himself.' Someone said, 'The mercy he has received is comparable to that received by Vyasadeva, Shukadev, Narada, and Prahlad.' Then with all their strength they all held you still, and shortly after you regained external consciousness. You do not know all these incidents. Now please hear attentively what we have to say. Since the past 10 days you have explained the devotional service to Krishna, and the holy name of Krishna is the meaning of every word of every shastra. For the last 10 days our studies have been held up, and we were afraid to inform you of this. You know the unlimited meanings of every word. Who has the power to contradict even your light-hearted comments?" The Lord said, "Your studies have been held up for 10 days? Shouldn't you have informed me of this?" The students replied, "Your explanations were correct. The purport of all scriptures is that Krishna is the absolute truth. This is real study and the essence of all scriptures, and it is our fault if we do not accept it. Whatever you have explained is fundamental truth and the only knowledge worthy of the name. It is due to our own misdeeds that we do not accept it." The Lord was pleased on hearing the students' words. Out of compassion, he began to speak as follows. The Lord said, "My dear brothers, whatever you have said is true, but do not tell anyone what I have said. O brothers, I speak in this way because all I see is a blackish complexioned child playing on his flute. I hear only the name of Krishna, and I behold the entire world as the abode of Govinda." Lord Caitanya is saying, "I am always seeing a blackish complexioned young boy attracting everyone with the sound of his flute. Since I constantly see him only, I always chant his name and sing his glories. The sound vibration that enters your ears is simply the names of Krishna, and the material world, the field of enjoyment that you are presently seeing around you, is not actually a place for your enjoyment. Rather, it is Vaikuntha Goloka, the place of Krishna's enjoyment." So that's the vision of the Mahabhagavat, is that they're seeing everything in relation to Krishna. So even the material world they're seeing as Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan, like we see later in the pastime of when Lord Caitanya was residing in Jagannath Puri, and he saw the sand dunes in Jagannath Puri, but he saw those sand dunes not as sand dunes, but he saw them as Govardhana Hill. So in one sense you could say he was incorrect, but at the same time he was correct, because he was seeing everything in connection in relation to Krishna. So that's a way of evaluating how we're developing our Krishna consciousness, by the more we're not seeing the world as a place for our enjoyment, and seeing the senses are seeing things through the eye of the mind as a place to enjoy, like nice forms and nice sound and smells, but we're seeing everything in connection in relation to Krishna. So it's a natural byproduct of the process of Krishna consciousness, that we're seeing everything in that context. Everything is related back and connected back to Krishna again. So that's we know we're making advancement when our consciousness is transforming that way. And that's the process of Krishna consciousness, is a transformation of the heart, transforming the way that we're seeing ourselves and seeing the world around us in connection with Krishna again. I humbly apologize to all of you. From today on, I will not continue with studies. I'm giving you permission to study with whomever you like without fear. No other words other than Krishna manifest to me. This is the true state of my mind. The Lord's students offered obeisance and said, we also make the same resolution as you. Now that we have studied under you, what can we learn from anybody else? Being afflicted with separation from their teacher, all the students wept and began to speak as follows. May the explanations that we've heard from you remain in our hearts, birth after birth. Whom can we approach and what can we study? We're quite satisfied with whatever we have learned from you. After speaking this way, all the students offered respects to the Lord with folded hands and then tied up their books with their cords. The students loudly chanted, Hari, Hari! Then the crest jewel of the twice-born began to cry as he embraced everyone. The students cried with their heads down, and they all merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss. The voices of the students became choked, and the Lord Sri Sachinandana blessed them all. If I have been the servant of Krishna for even one day, then may all of your desires be fulfilled. All of you take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. May your mouths be filled with the names of Krishna. Constantly hear the names of Krishna. May Lord Krishna be your life and wealth. Whatever you have learned is enough. There is no need for further studies. Now let us chant the names of Krishna together. So, as we can see there, it's Lord Caitanya wrapping up his pastime of being Nimai Pandit with his students, and that was his final instructions, is to become devotees of Krishna and chant the names of Krishna. And now Lord Caitanya's Sankirtan movement begins. So he gives further instructions to his students about how to engage how to engage in Sankirtan, how to dance. He gives them dancing instructions and how to chant the holy names. So this is where the Krishna conscious movement is birthed at this time, when he came back from Goa and dropped his Vaishya, being a scholarly student who could defeat everybody, and then began his pastimes of Sankirtan. So anyway, we can stop there. And any points or questions at all? Prashadam is about ready, so everyone, if you want to go, please go and take Prashadam. The description goes on further and further, but anyway, we'll stop there because it's time to stop. But yeah, very ecstatic. So please, if you have an opportunity to read Caitanya Bhagavat, well worth reading. It's a lot of elaboration on these pastimes that we're reading about in the Caitanya Caritamrta. Very ecstatic. And also a reminder that the Govardhana campaign is also going on leading up to Gaurapanim. So please, if you don't have a Caitanya Caritamrta set, if you see Vaishnavi or Charanavinda, then they have some sets for sale out the back. And if you do have a set, then maybe you could gift a set to somebody you know who doesn't have a set. So we're aiming to get 2,500 sets distributed worldwide during this Govardhana campaign. So everyone please be enthusiastic to take part and get a set or gift a set. Very, very ecstatic. Jai Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki, Jai Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki, Shri Caitanya Bhagavat ki, Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur ki. I think there are like maybe 200 around that mark. We just confirmed the Vaishnavi. Yeah, I think we're planning on setting some up here next to the book table as well, so we'll have some in here too. Yeah.